Good morning, friends. It's a rainy morning. Another wonderful opportunity to explore the Dharma. So, I'm gonna wander over here and go sit in this little cave I built for this situation. For when I want to be in the forest and doing reading, but it's raining. My little cave will keep me dry. So we've been reading Understanding Our Mind by Thich Nhat. And in that book, he's talking about Buddhist psychology. And we've been talking about habits, habit energy, identifying habits, discerning healthy habits and unhealthy habits, and transforming unhealthy habits. All this stuff is very important on the Buddhist path, because this is the stuff of suffering. And suffering is the focus. One sec, I'm gonna read a message I just got. There. Trying to figure out some details. Here is the little cave. I built this a couple years ago. I just dug out a trench in this hill and covered it with sticks. And there was garbage nearby, which I used to make the cave waterproof, the roof waterproof. And I covered it up with more sticks, and plants are growing over it now. And some homeless people who live nearby have used this cave to sleep in. And that makes me happy that it has been a refuge. But I'm gonna go in there now and read this wonderful book. So we have healthy habit energies and unhealthy habit energies. Happiness can be a habit energy. When we practice walking meditation, every step we take brings us peace and joy. When we first begin to practice walking meditation, we may have to make an effort. We are not yet skilled at it. We haven't yet conditioned ourselves with it. But one day, we begin to feel peace and joy walking quite naturally. And we wonder, why was I always in such a hurry? Once we feel at ease with walking meditation and other ways of moving mindfully, they become a wholesome habit. And one of my Buddha gang friends, it teaches about mindful movement, gentle mindful movement. And I think it's a wonderful practice. Dhruva Mitra. Though there are positive habit energies, it seems that negative habit energies are established more quickly. At school, our children are exposed to both good and bad habits, but they seem to learn the bad ones right away. It takes a long time for a young person to learn to appreciate Shakespeare, but it doesn't take long at all to learn to drink alcohol. When you teach something to a child, you may have to repeat it again and again, so that the seed will be planted solidly in the child's consciousness. When you paint a wall, the first coat is not enough. You have to paint over it a second and a third time. This is how we learn. And yesterday I was talking about this and saying, oh, this is conditioning. This is how we learn. Through conditioning, Pavlov trained his dogs to salivate at the sound of a bell. We can do a similar thing, but we can train ourselves to respond to other stimuli in more wholesome, helpful, skillful ways. We have to recognize, embrace, and transform our negative habit energies and train ourselves to have more positive habit energies. I was fortunate that early in my life, I learned the good habit of practicing sitting meditation every day to calm myself and to cultivate more stability, solidity, and freedom. Many of us have now learned the habit of returning to our breathing and smiling every time we hear the bell of mindfulness. So we can train ourselves with that sound. Instead of training ourselves to salivate, we can train ourselves to respond in other ways, with mindfulness and concentration, insight. These positive habits need to be cultivated because our negative habits always push us to do and say things that bring suffering to ourselves and others. Now, what is this? I'm trying to find the next section. There. Now we're on to the 8th verse. That was all on the 7th verse. And there are 50 verses described in this book. So now on to the 8th. These verses are from an ancient Buddhist teacher named Vasubandhu. And I'm only going to read a little bit more because I have some things to do this morning. Manifestations from store consciousness can be perceived directly in the mode of things in themselves, as things in themselves, as representations, or as mere images. All are included in the 18 elements of being. These would be the ayatanas, the sense organs like eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, and brain or heart. And then the objects that those organs are sensitive to, like light and sound vibration. And then the consciousnesses resulting from contact between those two, the sense organ and the sense object. So there are 6 of each. And there are 3, so 18 elements of being, ayatanas. When seeds in our store consciousness manifest themselves in our mind consciousness, or in conscious awareness, or intellect, mano vijnana, either we perceive them directly or we do not perceive them directly. There are 3 modes or fields of perception: direct, as representation, and as mere images. And these would be like forms imagined that don't correspond to anything in the world. Just mere images. According to the manifestation-only teachings, or the teachings of Buddhist psychology, the way we perceive reality has everything to do with our happiness and suffering. And earlier in this book, Thich Nhat was talking about how we habitually perceive reality in certain wrong ways. And this is similar. This is the same teaching. The way we perceive reality has everything to do with our happiness and suffering. These habit energies that shape the way we perceive reality are helpful, useful or not. And examining them is fruitful, profitable. The first field of perception is the perception of things in themselves. Perceiving directly, without distortion or delusions. And now that Tai is describing this realm of, or the 13 or the 18 elements of being, I'm seeing that this probably is not what I was describing. The 6 vijnanas as sense organ, sense object, contact, and that resulting consciousness. Here, Tai is talking about something else. He's talking about these fields of perception. And so this first field of perception is the perception of things in themselves. And this would be like single-pointed concentration, which moves beyond subject and object. And this would be direct perception, experiential understanding. Because subject and object are destroyed, you rest concentration on your object without the idea that it is separate. So there's direct perception of things in themselves. Perceiving directly, without distortion or delusions. This is the only one of the 3 modes of perception that is direct. And this way of perceiving is in the realm of namana, or suchness, ultimate reality, the unconditioned. Suchness, tatata, means reality as it is. Another name for the Buddha is Tathagata, which means the one who comes from suchness and goes to suchness. Everything, a leaf, a pebble, you, me, comes from suchness. All expressions of, conventional reality, relative reality, or appearance reality, everything we experience, like thoughts and sights and sounds, beings and things, all of this is really just a manifestation of ultimate reality. All conditioned things rest on the unconditioned, emerge from the unconditioned, and return to the unconditioned. So this is what Ty is talking about now. Everything, a leaf, a pebble, you, me, comes from suchness, ultimate reality, emptiness. Suchness is the ground of our being, our true nature, just as water is the ground of being of a wave. So there are the two truths, wave reality and water reality. In wave reality, there's birth and death, and thoughts and words make sense. But the underlying reality of the wave reality is that it's all just water. It's not separate. Those waves aren't actually individual things. They are what they are because of the action of all the other waves. So, that's where I'm going to stop reading today. This is wonderful stuff, and I'm excited to read again tomorrow around the same time. Bye-bye.